Hey guys, it's Jeremy, and I'm going to be reviewing my Voigtlander R4M and the Carl Zeiss 21mm Biogon T lens. So first let's start with the Voigtlander. This is a pretty great rangefinder. It is the only rangefinder with a 21mm viewfinder. So there is no other rangefinder that you can get that has anything wider than 28mm frame lines, and this can accommodate 21mm and 25mm frame lines, which is really nice. And in fact, it's the reason that I purchased this this rangefinder. If you're going to be shooting with anything wider than a 28mm lens on any other rangefinder, you're going to have an external viewfinder, and you have to put it up here on the hot shoe. And that is not so bad for some people. Some people don't mind pulling their eye up here and framing their shot, but I really prefer to use the built-in viewfinder, and it's really just because it's where I do all my focusing. So I don't see why a lot of people, would want to use an external viewfinder. I understand that you have to in certain instances, and there's some great external viewfinders, but I would much rather use the focusing mechanism inside of the viewfinder that's built into my rangefinder, which is really why I bought this rangefinder. Some of the other things about it: this particular model is a manual camera. It's the R4M. They also make the R4A, which has auto exposure and also an electronic shutter. This has a manual shutter. I prefer that. Just in case the batteries go out, I can still shoot. If you have an automatic camera and the batteries die, your camera dies. You don't have a choice. There is no more shooting for you. However, this does take a battery. It's not. There still are electronic bits and pieces in this camera, and that is really just the meter. So the meter is obviously electronic and requires battery power, and if the battery goes out, then the meter goes out. But you can still meter via other ways, some Sunny 16 rules and things like that. The meter, by the way, is pretty nice. It's a center weighted average, and it's accurate. I've always gotten good readings out of it, and I really don't have any complaints. I think that the LEDs don't look that quality inside of it. It looks a little blurry inside when you meter, and I'll show you what that means, and I'll show you what it sort of looks like. The viewfinder, it's going back to inside the viewfinder. The viewfinder is really nice and bright. It looks really good, and the frame lines, you can switch them pretty easily, and they look pretty nice. And it's pretty obvious what your frames are going to be. Oh, one thing about since it's such a wide viewfinder, if you use longer lenses, I don't think it's really worth it. If you really like to stick with really wide lenses, that's really the purpose of this rangefinder, this particular model. Because it's so wide, the focusing screen inside of the viewfinder is kind of small. So, if you're going to be shooting 35mm and above, I think that you should get a different body. Here, I'll let you listen to the shutter. It's a little loud. I wish that they could have dampened the sound a little bit. So now with the Zeiss Biogon, I really like this lens. It's really done me well. It's a very high quality lens. It has a lot of weight to it, and it's also actually kind of big. For those people who are sort of used to SLR lenses, it's not that big. As you can see, it sort of fits in the palm of my hand. But in terms of rangefinder lenses, M mount lenses, it's kind of a big one. Rangefinder lenses always tend to be a lot smaller than SLR lenses, and they're also higher quality than SLR lenses too. But the focus ring is really pretty nice. It's super smooth. Some people complain about lens wobble, where the focus ring has a little wobble in it. Mine doesn't. They say some people think that this is a Zeiss problem, but this is really just a problem that with all lenses. I mean, all lenses can have the same wobble problems. The aperture ring is also really quality. I mean, you can just feel it when you move it, and you can also watch the aperture blades in there move around, which is kind of nice little party trick, which is the same on every other lens. View. There's a depth of field preview on here, and it shows you what your depth of field looks like. Now, it's not super useful. I mean, you can kind of guess. When you want to do zone focusing, you're going to stick with just trying to nail the focus, and you kind of hope that you're within the range. Now, if you're at 2.8, then you're going to be it's going to be tough to nail the focus because the depth of field is still pretty shallow. But I mean, you just have to get used to how to zone focus. The majority of my work on the street is zone focusing. So let's talk about this in combination. It's really good to know which camera you want to shoot with and which lens you want to shoot with, and combine the two and make it a strong combo. This is a great combo because I like the viewfinder at 21. It's a 21mm viewfinder, and this is a 21mm lens. So they're a match made in heaven, and I really like that. Now, one of the bad things about the combo, and specifically this lens, is again, the lens is a little bit big. So the lens actually comes into the frame, the 21mm frame line. It's not terrible. There's a little bit of an intrusion. If I had a hood on it, then it would be even worse. Now, the hoods that they make, they have this little corner that's open, and if you notice on a lot of Leica hoods and Voigtlander hoods, they've got this space that's sort of cut out. That is because they want to make it easier on your viewfinder. So when you look through your viewfinder, you can still see through the hood. I don't really use a hood. I use a little filter, and it's a black and white filter. I think it's a great combo. I mean, for the subway, this is it. I do like the ethos of spending a little bit less money on your on the body, and I did spend less money on this body. I bought it off of eBay. It was slightly used. I think it's in great condition, and I bought it for $500, and I think I got a great deal. But I like having a cheaper camera and more expensive lens. I think the lens is much more important than the camera. It's the lens is where all the magic happens. It's what translates reality into a two-dimensional piece of film. So I think if you shoot on the subway, this is a great combo, and I stand by it. I stick by my story. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comment section. Thanks.